Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail where you can, in turn, inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we are able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson. Now, school may be out, but the Run for God podcast never stops, right? And we have an extra special surprise this week. Joining me in the Run for God studio is one of my favorite bundles of energy, Angie Hawkins.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
How you been doing?
Fantastic.
Patrick doing good too?
He's good. We're crazy, you know. I mean, it's our busy time of year, so we are running wild, but enjoying life. We're grateful.
I hadn't thought about that in that business.
Yeah, it's this time of year, so.
Yeah.
But we're grateful. We're grateful for all of the Lord's provisions, for all of our great customers, all of our employees. Yeah, so.
Amen.
Our health,
Well, and it's graduation time right now, too. So do you guys have a bunch of graduates that you know right around your area?
I do. We're in that age that I have friends that have children graduating from high school and college.
Yeah.
And it's so cool, you know, to have watched some of these kids grow up and now they're graduating from college, and it's just awesome. We love it.
It's really exciting.
I was crying the other day looking at all the posts on Facebook.
Well, I have the first athlete that I ever recruited myself graduates this Saturday. And she's just been precious and very special to me for 4 years. And she's going to be a teacher.
Great.
And she's going to be awesome.
We need those.
Yes.
We need those. That's a dying breed, I think, for those that have the heart for it.
Yep.
And but I'm sure you've been a blessing for her too.
Well, I hope so. She's been special.
Awesome.
All right, we have a sponsor for this week. This week's podcast is sponsored by Trinity Disposal, which is the go-to disposal company for Whitfield County and the surrounding counties. Trinity offers a residential trash collection and commercial front-end load dumpsters. Trinity is very detail-oriented and has an excellent customer service reputation. So, if you're interested in the top-of-the-line disposal service, Trinity Disposal is the route for you. And they do a great job. And they really do. They put their money where their mouth is. You know how when you go to Chick-fil-A, you know the customer experience is different at Chick-fil-A. Yeah. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why every restaurant in the world doesn't copy what they're doing.
Exactly.
Because it's so successful.
Exactly. It feels good to walk in that fast food restaurant.
It does. And Trinity's kind of like that from the garbage disposal industry. They're a little bit different because of their customer service.
I remember maybe last year, Mitchell talking about how they use it at the company at their home, and how one time they had forgotten to put the trash out, and they came and got the trash from the house.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky to get away from my guys.
Yeah.
They took my recycle bin and took it from me one day, and I had to go get a new
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, it's nice to have good customer service.
It is. Well, our Facebook post from this past week is from Heather Boyer Valdez. You know that name. I know you know that name really well. Couch to Marathon, week 3, 43 down and 132 to go. Week 3 was a blur, but I got all my runs in. Some were east. Some were easy and others were hard. But Jesus met me and ran with me on all of them. I saw a chiropractor on Friday for the first time in many years. Both hips were out, both femurs were out, and my lumbar spine was twisted because of it. No wonder stretching hurt so badly. Praise Jesus for medical practitioners who listen and support running. Looking forward to seeing how ongoing treatments help. So do you use a chiropractor?
Oh, yes. Yeah? Yes. For many, many different reasons. But I find this one to be good, a good post too. And because when she posted that, I was like, I feel, because I've broken my tailbone, I have knee issues, but everything's out of whack because of one thing after another.
Right.
Most currently, I have herniated discs. So it's like I show up one day and he's like, what are we working on today?
Yeah.
But my chiropractor, I really like him for the fact that he knows my sport. He doesn't, I have a history of resistance training. I like going to the gym and whatnot. He's an old power lifter and bodybuilder. So he's never wanting to make me, hey, you need to stop. Yeah. But once we started running, he thinks we're crazy. But that's his biggest question every time I show up. Have you been running? Yes or no. And he gets upset when I say no. So I like our relationship more than anything, and he listens. So
yeah, that's good.
I don't know.
It goes to a larger thing too, because there's other things out there besides chiropractic.
Sure.
I've done dry needling or acupuncture, as it's traditionally known. There's massage. There's a lot of different modalities out there that can really help us to get us better. And sometimes one works and another one doesn't. But it's totally worth it. If you're having particular problems, if you're particularly sore or you just got a pain in an area, a lot of times some of these folks are it's kind of like, I call it maintenance medicine.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times they can do wonders for just keeping you going.
Yeah. Well, and they know, I've learned so much because of all of my injuries through the body and whatnot, but they know so much about, and we've talked about alignment and things like that with, your knee might be hurting because the other side, your hip might be out, or, and in Heather's case, there's a little twist going on in your core, but everything is from either your core or your feet. So, I personally like going to him for advice, and then he leads me in other directions if it's not within his scope of work. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I've got this problem that I developed actually in one workout, and it's followed me now for years. And I decided to work out with a local college team back several years ago. So actually, it was the men's team of the team that I coach.
Okay.
Before, obviously, I was coaching them. And we did some drills and stuff before that workout that just destroyed my hamstrings.
Oh.
And I should know better than to have done those.
But you're kind of giving me.
I wanted to do everything that everybody else was doing.
Of course.
But as an old person, I didn't need to be doing those particular drills, but I did them anyway. And so I had all these problems, and it followed me for years. And then I went to a therapeutic massage lady here in town who I think is just wonderful. And like you said, she's so knowledgeable about how the body works and everything. I went in to see her, and I sat down, and literally within 5 minutes, she looked at me and she said, "I think I know what your problem is." She could tell by the way I was sitting.
Interesting. I believe it, but I just love that. Yeah.
And sure enough, to this day, I can be on a long run and I start getting these problems down that start in my hip and go down my hamstring. And I can stop in the middle of that run and I can massage a certain area up underneath my gut, nowhere near the area.
Oh, wow.
And make it go away just like that because of what she did for me. So not only did she help me obviously in the moment and what was going on, but she taught me that there's things that I can do to help myself.
And I think that's important. That's why I like my doctor so much, is that when I go in, I don't just say, fix me. I go in and say, why is this way? And I like to have an understanding of why things are happening so I can then better prepare for the next time or recognize it when it's happening versus it going full blown or what have you. But I'm like that with everything. That's really cool that it was in under your rib cage versus... Oh, wow. I might have to talk to you more about that. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. It's all connected.
Well,
and she understands how it's all connected and why one thing might affect another.
So I just heard yesterday, maybe going on a rabbit trail, so don't let me go too far. I just heard yesterday that the sacrum, the bottom part of your lower part of your back, is the complete opposite side of what is sacred to us, and meaning like where we're going to whether or not we're going to have children, and that sensitive, that core, the inner strength and everything. It's a very sacred area of our bodies. And that's where the name sacrum came from.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me the whole core abdominal thing is affecting the back. I mean, again, it's the front muscle versus the back muscle too. So anyway, way off topic.
Well, and along those topics, what winds up being the issue is that there's only two muscles in your body that connect the top half of your body to the lower half of your body. It turns out those muscles are very, very important.
Sure.
To your body working properly. And
yeah.
that's exactly what the issue is. So
I love the body.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we did have a trivia question last week, and the trivia question last week was this. There is a race that takes place in California that they label as the toughest foot race in the world. It is 135 miles long. What is the name of this race? Did you know the name of this race?
I couldn't remember what it was called, but I remember when Dean
Karnazes
was on talking about it.
Yeah.
So yes, it did spark. I was like, hey, I know this one, but I don't remember it.
It's called the Badwater Ultramarathon.
Nuts.
And it's called Badwater because of where it starts. It starts in the Badwater Basin.
Okay.
And that's why it's called the Badwater Ultramarathon. But it starts in Death Valley in California, which is the lowest spot in the United States. It's 282 feet below sea level. I think it's the lowest place on Earth, actually, that is not covered in water.
Sure.
And then they run to an altitude of 8,360 feet during this race. The temperatures in Death Valley, even on race day, can be as high as 130 degrees.
I remember Dean talking about how you would have to wear like white suits and stay on the painted line, or shoes melting or something along that line, right?
Your shoes can melt because the road is so hot.
That's insane. Why would anybody go there?
Well, people don't live there.
Well, why would you go run there?
It's pretty desolate.
That's awesome, though.
But originally, the race was set to go from that lowest point in the United States to continental United States to the highest point in the United States, which happens to be 146 miles away at Mount Whitney. The total elevation gain is over 13,000. Well, it could be over 19,000 feet if you went from low to high. And they did that early in this races. They used to go all the way to the top of Mount Whitney. Wow. They changed it because of permitting reasons. The government came in and said you have to have a permit to get on this trail to hike to the top of Mount Whitney, and that kind of cut them off so that they stop at the head of that trail. But it's still 13,000 feet in elevation gain in one race. Unbelievable. And again, it's called the world's toughest foot race for a reason, because it is. It's brutal. Badwater, the area of the Badwater Basin where it starts, is it's again, we talked about how hot it is, and how you have to wear clothing. You think about, you want as little clothing as possible. Right. But you can't do that either.
Right.
You have to be covered because the sun is so intense. A guy named Al Arnold was the first guy to try to run from this lowest point to the highest point. He did that in 1974. We didn't make it. He
Let's laugh, but I mean, okay.
I know this is really hard to believe, but he got dehydrated.
No.
Yeah. And
did he not prepare?
So he didn't make it. And then, so he tried it a couple more times. I think it was on his third or fourth try when he finally made it in 1977. And he made it all the way to the top of Mount Whitney. And it took him a lot longer than it takes them today to run the race, but he did it.
I bet.
The race was first organized in 1987. And in 1987, when it was first organized, there was no official course. It was, here's the start line, here's the finish line, get there however you want to.
Wow.
And so that made it interesting, because some people would try to go across areas that you probably shouldn't try to go across. And so that made it a little bit more interesting than it is today. Today, it's a mapped out course. And again, it started to be 146 miles. Now it's 135 miles because it's 11 more miles to the summit. There's a 48-hour time limit these days for the race, so you have to be able to complete it in under 48 hours. It used to be 60 when it went all the way to the top of Mount Whitney, but now it's 40. The record is 33 hours and 54 minutes by a guy named Marshall Ulrich. That's the record for the 146-mile course. For the 135-mile course, the record is 21 hours and 33 minutes by Yoshihiko Ishikawa.
Good job reading that one.
That's a hard one, isn't it? And then the woman with the record is the first woman to win the race overall
Wow.
was Pam Reed in 2002. Interestingly, do you know who came in second place in that race? Dean Karnazes.
I was going to say, I'm going to take a guess and say Dean Karnazes.
Dean Karnazes. Yeah,
wow.
That's right. So there are about 90 finishers every year. About 20 to 40% don't finish. Dean Karnazes did win it twice, and it's invitation only. You can't just you just can't just sign up for Badwater. Yeah. There are actually way more people that apply for the race than actually get accepted to the race. So you have to, there's some prerequisites. I think you have to run a 100-mile race and some other things that you have to have done before you can.
You can't just show up unexpected.
That's right.
I mean, not knowing the conditions and everything.
Right.
And
however, there are some people who will just go out there and just run it.
Yeah.
Not on race day.
Official race. Yeah.
And so that would be me. That would be what I would want to do. Yeah.
Not me. I might be like your crew in the truck and say, come on, Dean, here's a water. Don't dehydrate.
Well, here's what's even more fascinating about the race now these days is some people have done it as a double.
Okay.
So where they run to the top and then back down to the start.
Wow.
And now then people started doing triples where they went 3 times, and then now there's even people who have done quads where they actually do up and down twice.
That's insane.
And it's crazy. It takes
really,
them like 10 days to do it. But
it gives you a whole new perspective on hill day.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And running in the heat.
Yeah. Some people just they just want to see how far they can go, and that's
insane.
Hey,
that's awesome.
Ultra marathoners are crazy people. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, all right.
It takes a special person.
It does. It does.
Sorry.
Well, let's talk about the Hawkins 10K.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got the Hawkins 10K. Well, I mean, it's not too far out.
It's not too far out, no.
So
July next month.
Tell us about the Hawkins 10K.
Well, we are super excited that last year that you guys came and ran with us, and that this all just kind of developed. And we were looking for a 10K and decided, let's just run our own. Hey, let's raise some money for Run for God while we do it. And so this year, and you guys have been talking about how it's kind of grown a little bit. We're trying to keep it, as organic and just let it happen as much as possible. But we are trying to think it through a little bit more. Like we've probably, we're thinking of moving the start finish line to an area that there's a porta pot where we didn't have restrooms last year, which is just down the course some. But overall, everything is going great. We are, speaking of Heather, her and her husband, when we were all in Dalton for the race, the 5K, Eric is, amongst other things, Heather's husband does graphic design work, and he has offered to do our artwork because we are giving away rally towels. Are you familiar with rally towels?
Yeah.
Everybody has a t-shirt, and I was like, I have so many t-shirts. Let's do something different.
Yeah.
And so we decided to do rally towels for anybody who raises over $200.
Cool.
So, and that's all everything's being donated. Bigfoot Services, our company, mine and Patrick's company, we're going to use them to purchase and having all the towels made and whatnot. We have a local company here in Dalton that is going to screen print them for us. And then, like I said, Eric has done the artwork and, just getting everybody together. We, have our site set up and everything. And I'm so technically challenged. It's not even funny. So had that all set up a few months ago so everybody can get registered and start raising money.
So much fun.
It is so much fun. And we're
love
excited.
These events that are different.
Well, and I've been trying to explain it because I have things in my mind. I have such a hard time getting it out of my mouth, though. Articulate and trying to explain stuff is just not my forte. But
you don't have any problem actually moving the lips.
I have no problem with that in my hands. I'm trying my hardest not to talk with my hands today. The idea is just like kind of a mashup kind of, hey, let's all just kind of run together.
Yeah.
I love the idea of celebrating everybody's hard work and the accomplishments, and whether you're running or walking. We've had some people say, what's the cutoff? And we're following, Run for God's theme of no man left behind. We're going to wait until you're finished. We have a couple.
No cutoff.
There ain't no cutoff. But ultimately, we're just excited to just kind of go out and run with everybody and hopefully have you guys, and we're trying to figure out still about a camera or something like that to do a live shot.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Okay.
There's a solution. We just got to figure it out. And
we keep talking about it, but nothing's being decided, right?
Yeah, well,
probably the day before.
Yeah, well, hopefully a little before then. But
I'm going to challenge you guys to come out, because there was a question about cell service. You guys should come out and run to test it out to see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you do have the course mapped out at this point? Then we need to do that for sure.
Yep.
And figure it out.
And we have it exactly 6.2 this time versus last year it was.
It was pretty close.
It was close, depending on where you started, or those that got kind of lost.
There were a few people who wound up running, and they ran about 80 meters or so past the finish line and back.
And back to just But anyway,
it was all good. So hopefully maybe again this year we can have our Dalton State ladies came out there. We all got in a van and drove down there, and
that was such a surprise.
Maybe we can do that again.
Yeah, if it works out, I would love to have everybody. I find them to be so encouraging. I'm one of those, though, whether you are walking or super fast, I can find encouragement by what you're doing, because whether you're walking or you're running super fast, you're still putting in the work. And I admire people who just don't give up.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us are little knuckleheads that we should probably back off sometimes, but
no. Yeah. All right. Well, if you haven't checked out J Radio yet, why don't you check out J Radio? It is the world's greatest music platform, and I promise you that you will find nothing but uplifting, positive Christian messages in J Radio.
Social media?
Nope.
Grocery store tabloids?
Nope.
The newspaper?
Not usually.
The national news?
Are you serious?
Is there any media source these days that only shares a positive message? A lot of the media we take in each day can be pretty negative. Why not make the decision right now that your music will only be positive? Sign up for an account at jradio.com today and download the app in your app store with music for every moment and entirely positive Christian message. It'll be nice to hear things going right for a change.
All right, we're back, and what the people who haven't been, and that means most people listening have not been to this area where you hold this race.
Correct.
It is a beautiful area.
It really is.
I mean, I love it.
Patrick and I travel about 30 minutes to go to Cartersville to run.
Yeah.
Specifically because it's just the main course that we'll be running this 10K is roughly 2.5 miles, but then we leave it to go to another little area to come back. So, but it's all paved trails and whatnot. And, but it's around sod farms and cotton fields.
Yeah.
And so it's a gorgeous, like peaceful, you see maybe the sprinklers out there or the tractors out there. But everybody that lives in that community that comes out there, they're kind and just everybody's happy. And it's just it's a good place to be, you know? So I'm excited to bring everybody into, I've been posting a lot of pictures lately, and lately that's all we've been running is over in that area.
Yeah.
So just to give people like an idea of what they're going to see if they get to come to Cartersville.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. Can't wait. All right. Well, listen, we've been asking for your stories. We need stories. And I know there's somebody listening right now who has said over and over in their head, I need to write my story down. I need to write my story down. And they say it over and over again. So I'm talking to you, whoever's listening right now. You got it. And you're going, yeah, that's me. Yeah, just do it.
Just do
right?
it. Yeah.
Just do it. Just get out there and write your story. Submit it. You can go to the Run for God page to the bottom. Submit your story. We make it real complicated. It's called Submit Your Story.
It's tough to find that. Yeah.
So
even for people like me, I pushed that button.
yeah. So let us know about that. And you know what you may wind up with? You may wind up in one of the issues of future issues of devotions, and may wind up going through guideposts, and it's pretty cool. But we'll also share it right here on this podcast, and we're about to share somebody's story. Great stories that we have.
I'm always so inspired by all of them, and I absolutely love them. And then where you guys get to talking about the scripture and everything too. It's a time of my either Monday or Tuesday that I definitely map out to just sit and either listen or watch, or sometimes both. So
yeah,
I like stories.
So what do you think about the mental side of running?
I love everything mental because I'm crazy, and but it was recently I've learned a couple years ago, without trying to go on another rabbit trail here. I do a lot of research, I guess you can say, about how the mind works and how we can remap our thoughts and whatnot. And it's just so cool to me to realize when I'm in a hard run. Now, it's taken about 3 years for it to go, oh, I can do this while I'm running too. Yeah. While you're in a difficult run, or, those horrible lies start flooding your thoughts and everything, the hill or what have you, you can kind of control that. You really can. So I love it. I love everything about this, and overcoming those lies is it's pretty cool once you realize you can do it. Yeah.
You know what I find interesting about it as an older athlete who's been doing this for a very long time. Yeah. And, my mind obviously was a lot different when I was 18 years old compared to today. And what I have found interesting is that experience makes a difference. Sure. Because the more that you go to that well and the more that you push past or run hard, the easier it becomes to make it a habit to be able to do that. But at the same time, as I get older, I care less about running as well as I ran when I was younger.
You are interesting to follow with the fact that you don't judge yourself on performance, but you like to go perform really well at all these events, which I think is really cool. Yeah. So it's like you have that switch that you're able to really control, clicking on and off. You want to go run, but some days there's no performance-based run. Yeah. But then you can also go turn it on and set world records. I mean,
just American.
So do you know, do you know what's going on in your brain when all that's happening?
What's going on in my brain?
It's a chemical reaction. It's a hormone reaction. So when you are, this is the geeky stuff that I absolutely love. Yeah. And I'm not trained or taught in school, or it's just, so forgive me. Simplified Angie Land thoughts are, when you come a contact or coming into doing something new, let's start there first. That is actually the dopamine rush. That's where it's in the search of doing that new thing. So that's why when we start doing a new 10K, we get really excited, right? Yeah. But then it starts to get hard. And a lot of times we fall off. With that hard that's happening, your brain is, the lies that are going on in your mind, you're now releasing a hormone it's called epinephrine. Mm-hmm. And when the epinephrine sets in, that's then being released through your limbic brain. I know, right? Yeah, yeah. It is your
lizard brain.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But then that's the fight or flight. And that's when we decide, I can't do this, or I've got to do it. Yep. And then when you decide, it's a choice that you make. Once you make that decision to go do it, then the epinephrine sets in. And it takes these two hormones to now create a new channel of thinking. So you're creating new neuropathways during that whole decision making, which happens within a split second. Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah. But that's cool. God made us that way. Yeah. That we can rechannel our thoughts. And like you said, the more we go back to do it, the easier it gets, because we believe in it.
That's right. And we've taken that pathway. We've worn down that trail.
I always think of like going into the woods or what have you. Yep. Exactly. Yep. It's awesome. So cool. Yeah. So we do. We have the ability to do that. And why do we still think we can't? That's what I haven't figured out. Yeah. Why do we still panic? Yep.
And it's still, I've run 100,000 miles in my life, and there's still days where it's just hard. It's really hard.
That's just amazing to me. Even when you're just going out for an easy run, so to speak, that you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, wow. Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Thanks for making me feel normal.
One thing we failed to mention, we've got these shirts, right? Yes. The USA shirts. I think we're just only a few days left to get yours. So go to the Run for God store and get these are some cool shirts.
They are some cool shirts. I got my first one years ago. I've got 2 tank tops and a white t-shirt. Yeah. My white t-shirt is no longer white, so maybe that'll be my color that I get this year, because I've worn it so much. But yeah, I love them. And especially coming towards the 4th of July and everything, it's just, I don't know. Yeah. Very patriotic.
And if you're just listening and you're not watching the video, which is most of you, these shirts, they have the Run for God logo, but in the background of the logo is the American flag.
American flag, yeah.
And so it's really patriotic, and we love to be patriotic.
Yes.
And this is the time of year to be patriotic. So get yours today, and not only will you get one of these, but if you order one of these right now, we have limited supplies, but you also get a free regular Run for God shirt. With the whatever we've got in stock and whatever we've got left. So
awesome.
Two for one.
2 for 1.
That's a deal.
I guess I'm ordering more shirts.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
All right. So today's story kind of goes with what we were just talking about. It's called Overcoming Lies. It comes from Randy Whaley from Marlow, Oklahoma. And this is what it says. God had started a work in me telling me to run. As an overweight, non-athletic girl who had never run, I was scared. I started training anyway. About 10 months later, I had entered my second 5K. My goal was to run the entire thing. I couldn't run the first one. I kept taking walking breaks. I was determined to run all 3.1 miles, even though I had never run more than 2 miles at one time. It was a local, for fun, color run. There was no pressure to finish first. I was excited. I started a little too strong. As I approached mile 1, I was feeling discouraged. I was running out of energy. People were just flying by me. I just kept praying. My prayer was, God, help me do this. When I got close to mile 2, walkers began passing me. I was moving so slow. I was sobbing as I ran, and that certainly doesn't help anything. My head started filling up with things like, just walk, no one cares, and it really doesn't matter, just quit. But then I heard God's booming voice of, I care. I told you to run, and I will help you. He started giving me scriptures, reminding me that he began this work in me, and he would make sure that it was completed. Also, that I was going to have an amazing story to tell someday. I would be able to tell others about this and about how he helped me. I dried my face with my shirt and pushed through. It wasn't easy. I kept whispering the name of Jesus every time it became too hard to breathe. Every time the pain became too much. He was there, helping me through. It was a beautiful moment crossing that finish line. I spent the entire day just thanking him that his voice booms louder than any lies Satan wants to tell me. God is bigger. God really used that day in my life, and I've been able to share with other women who are scared to try running. I've been allowed to encourage others who are struggling. God was able to take all that fear and pain and turn it into something beautiful that I am so blessed to share with other women who are going through the same thing I did. I still struggle to run 3 miles. It's still hard. I know one day it won't be. I'm getting better with practice and discipline. He helps me every day. Remind yourself of the truth so you can overcome the lies.
Great story. So true.
Yeah, this running thing can be hard.
It really can be.
Yeah. And that's the thing about running that a lot of people don't realize. And when you're new to running, you think, well,
it's just me.
It's just me. Mm-hmm. And it's just hard because I'm just starting. Well, running can be hard for everybody. It's hard for me sometimes.
Well, yeah, you say that. And it is, I hate to say it, I don't want to use you as the example, but it's reassuring even for you to have a hard run, for us to go, okay, we can do this. If Dean keeps doing it for all these years and 11 years straight other than one day, I mean, we can do this.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about taking a day off this summer.
I heard that you said that.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know.
Are you going to have a hard time with it?
I haven't decided yet whether I want to do it or not, but I'm trying
we'll get back to that.
Yeah. What I find interesting about these stories is every time that we see this story, we've seen this story a million different ways.
Sure.
And every time the truth is that ability is inside of her the whole time. The whole time. God is just reassuring us that it's there.
It always reminds me for myself, but then reading this and hearing you read this, it's like when, the Israelites were going into the promised land. They've already been chosen to go into it. All you have to do is go claim it.
Yeah.
We're already equipped to do the things that God has called us to do, or He's going to equip, but we're equipped to do it. Why do we doubt?
I don't know.
It's not our ability, it's His.
Yeah. I think what happens is it's sort of like when I remember when I lived down in South Georgia for a while, and I lived literally, I could throw a rock and hit the train tracks from where I lived. It was so close to the train tracks. But and I really worried about that when I moved in. But within a month, I never heard the trains come by.
That's insane.
I mean, they would come by in the middle of the night and never wake me up because I just got used to it. And it was really loud. I feel like sometimes we're that way with God's voice. Yeah. I think sometimes God is, just like she says, He's very, very loud and makes things very obvious very often. But we've gotten used to ignoring it.
Sure. Oh,
And we have to be careful of that. We have to be cognizant of it and make sure that we're listening for it.
Absolutely.
Hebrews 12:11 says, "Now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful. Nevertheless, afterward it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." We never like it when it's hard.
No.
While it's hard. In the moment.
No.
We don't, while we're running that run, it just feels like it's never going to end, and this is so hard, and we never think about in that moment that it's making us stronger, but we probably should think that.
Well, this goes back to what I said earlier. I've gotten to the point, and it wasn't until my 50s that I started thinking, I need to understand why this is happening. And, why, like I had asked you last year, I'm not sure that you remember, but I was like, why do we do speed work, intervals, hill workout? What is, not because I know it's not you just telling us what to do, but I know there's a purpose behind it. Right. So when this sort of thing happens, I just keep kind of telling myself, find the joy in it, because there's a purpose for it. There's a purpose for this pain.
And there is.
I try.
And I've seen so many athletes. I mean, they're just countless. More athletes fall on this side that I'm going to describe than this joyful, triumphant side. So many athletes who never realize their potential, and the reason they don't realize it is because they give in to the chastening, as the verse says, that pain, and in order for us to get over that, we have to overcome that regularly. It can't just be one time. It's not just, because the truth is you have to overcome. If you want to be the best you can be, you have to overcome that in practice before you can do it in a meet. And you might do it in a meet, but if you haven't done it in practice, you're not as far along, and you're not as well equipped for that meet.
Right.
And so we need a daily determination to overcome whatever the obstacle is today.
Yeah. Daily determination. I like how you say that, because I always say it's a choice that we have to make, but daily determination, you're determined to do that. Yeah. I like that. That's a good choice of words. But
what I see is an athlete going, well, it's not going to hurt for me today to give in
to skip this, or
And then the next day it's just one day. Because
you're now creating that pathway, that thought. That's your coping skill.
That's exactly right. And so we need to quit giving into it, is what we have to do. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." I love this verse and hate this verse at the same time. Right?
Definitely.
It's then this is kind of at the end of Peter. First Peter is 5 chapters. This is kind of toward the end of that, and this is he's warning us. He's saying this is coming. Satan's coming.
Yeah. Hello.
He wants to devour you.
Yeah.
He wants to upset your apple cart. He wants to be the fly in the ointment. He wants to be the monkey in the wrench. He wants to get in your way. And we have to know that it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, he has no other mission but to steal, kill, and destroy. And I always use this in a different, I always think about how the enemy's always like peeking through a keyhole, You know, those old timey keyholes that you can kind of, he's always looking through that keyhole to look for the time to devour you, he can just sneak in and get you.
Finding your weakness.
Yeah.
I was just talking with one of my athletes yesterday who was talking about there's another athlete from another team in our conference, and she made the astute observation that she knows this girl's weakness, and that in order for her to beat this girl when in competition, she needs to exploit that weakness. That's what Satan's doing to us.
Absolutely.
Satan is waiting and looking. He knows what our weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And he's waiting for that opportunity to jump in there as soon as we're exposed to it. I
have a few friends that are battling some injuries, and we've discussed before about how, our minds are so set and we're in God's word. We are in the season of our lives where God is so in front, center, everything that he's holding us close. So the enemy has nothing but our bodies and our physical bodies, flesh, to attack us with.
Yep.
And if he can take out our knees or, throw out my neck or what have you, then we're not able to get out there and share his word and shine his light and everything. So I count it all joy. I really do.
Amen.
I keep telling myself that.
I think that's important.
I do too.
Because I think just telling yourself that, whether it's the repetitiveness of doing it over and over again, it sinks in. Yeah. It just sinks in.
Yeah.
And kind of what he's saying, it's like listen up. This is important. This is an important thing that I'm saying here in this particular verse. I was talking with a group of elementary school kids here recently, and I remember there was one point I really wanted to drive home to them. So before that point, what I said was, okay, if you didn't hear anything else I said, I want you to pay attention right now, because I'm going to say something really important. That's what he's doing here.
Yeah.
He's saying, listen, this is really important. Satan's out to get you, and know it.
You need to listen.
You need to listen. Yeah. That's what I like about that verse.
Yeah.
Philippians 1:6 says, being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. We just talked about how recently we talked about how God is continually improving us. I've talked before on this podcast about having an issue with, I get really passionate about things, and I can lash out, and I can be very, and God has tamed me so much, but it wasn't all at one time.
No,
it was this idea of he who began a good work. He began this work in me. He started to change me years ago.
Sure.
And every day I'm a little bit better at it. And
we're never. I have a say. I'm constantly under construction.
Yeah.
And if we don't think that we have places to improve, then we've got to really look at ourselves. Self-check here.
That's a whole different problem there.
Right.
Yeah.
But I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot like a training plan, right?
Right.
As we run, there's we can be better next week than we are this week by what we do this week. But then there's also, we can be better a year from now. And then we can be even better 2 years from now.
2 years from now, yeah.
And it's all about just that continuous improvement.
Yep.
It's a great example. There's two things that are important to all of that. He talks about he who has begun a good work in you is so important, because we have to start.
Sure.
We have to have that starting point where we start that, where we let God start that process of improving us. And then, of course, as it says, we've got to be vigilant about it.
Yeah.
We've got to stay on it and keep being obedient to God in order for all that fruit to come from it.
Good stuff.
How about this question? What lies are you believing that are keeping you from doing what he asks? I think the big one for a lot of us, and the big one for me a lot of times, is I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Last week's podcast, I talked about how I was asked to fill in for a Wednesday night service, and it was on Wednesday morning when I was asked. And I had a jam-packed full day of things to do, and there was just no way I could do it. But I needed to do it.
Yeah.
And there were other things. God was going to provide a way, and he did. And there was more things that got in the way than I thought were even going to get in the way.
Sure.
So I had even less time to prepare for it.
Again, going back to the enemy is going to keep you from doing that good thing that God's wanting you to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so for me, a lot of times it's time. There's always this angle of, I don't have enough time to do that. And the truth is we got to find time for the important things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Of course, our hierarchy needs to be right too.
Yeah.
What is important?
What is important and what's important and who's important too. Yeah.
Yeah. We see it all the time in the 5K challenge, the marathon challenge, all of these challenges that we have where so many people they just don't believe they can do it.
They're packed. They have this or that this time of year, the end of school year, and there's a lot of things going on. Well, we knew end of school year was coming, so we have to plan for it.
Yeah.
You know, not to wag fingers. I'm talking to myself, because this is our busy time of year. We know our season's coming, so we've got to plan for that busy season.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not time. Sometimes it's something else.
Sure.
That people get in their way that I can't do.
Mine is I'm not good enough. That's my biggest thing, and that's where I'm always. But it's a mind thing, and so I always go back to you are good enough. You wouldn't be called to it. You are chosen to do this, so go do it. Yeah.
Another big one in Run for God circles is I'm too old.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've heard that a million times.
Or the injuries
I'm too old to do that. It's bad for my knees, or it's there's all sorts of excuses, and all those excuses are just implanted there.
They're just lies. Going back to her story, they're just lies.
Yep. And
not to take away from an ache or pain or something along that line, but sometimes you can actually feel better if you just get up and move.
Yep.
That's my case.
Yeah. I go back to these athletes that I've coached that I see that never reach their full potential.
Yeah.
And it's just, I know they can do it. And I try to be that voice in their head as much as I can of saying, you can do this. I would not tell you that you could if you couldn't.
Yeah.
And boy, how joyful it is when they do get there.
Yeah. Isn't that the greatest?
Goodness, yes.
I am definitely the world's biggest cheerleader. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious, but my heart is overcome with joy to see people get through that hard stuff.
Yeah.
Not even knowing half the people that are in Run Club, but you get to know them. And I'm like, I know you can do this. Yeah. I know you can. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is where I have a hard time with the incongruency of all of this is the way I was brought up. And it's hard for me to understand why people have such a hard time with it, because when I grew up, and I've said this on this podcast before, my mother told me I could do anything.
Yeah.
And I believed her. And so my thoughts about anything is, well, if he can do it, if she can do it, then I can do it.
Then you can do it. Yeah.
And that's again, that was beat into my brain, and so that's why I believe it. But
what a beautiful lesson from your mom.
Yeah. But so many people, they see it happening right in front of them with somebody else, and still think, well, I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Look at all the evidence out there right in front of your eyes that tell you that you can do it.
Well, even growing up, I have asthma. So growing up, I now say I use that as my excuse.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people. You have girls that have asthma on your team.
That's right.
So but we're taught. It's learned behavior, or even if it's just learned by ourselves because that we chose to use that as our excuse.
Yeah.
But after a while, you start to believe it. Oh, I'm panicking and I'm getting short of breath. Well, slow down.
Yeah.
Catch your breath.
Yeah.
There is common sense. Anyway.
All right. Well, here's the next question is kind of where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
How can you overcome those lies?
Staying close to the Word of God for me. I mean, going back to...
You got to be creative.
You have to be creative. It's a choice. It's a choice to overcome those lies.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't realize, being mindful that they are going to flood.
Yeah.
So, and recognize them as soon as possible, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And going, oh, wait a minute. Wait, I have done this hill before, or whatever that hard thing is. So...
Yeah, and again, I always look at the evidence around me. So, like, for example, with the time thing, I look at... Elon Musk has been in the news a lot lately for the whole Twitter thing, right?
Right.
You think Elon Musk has enough to worry about without worrying about purchasing Twitter?
Right.
I mean, the guy's got...
Bukus.
Who thinks Elon Musk has all the time in the world to worry about Twitter?
Right. And do you think that that's really even a thought, like we sit here and we talk about what's on Twitter, what's on Facebook, I don't know that he's necessarily worrying about what I'm posting on Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah. But the bottom line is he thinks it's an important thing for whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
And he'll find the time.
He will.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I guarantee he's not worried about whether or not I ran today.
Yeah.
But no, I just, to have that kind of, never mind.
Well, I just had a conversation with one of my athletes who has some doubts. And it's just clear. Satan is throwing these things in her ear that they're just bad thoughts.
Oh, that's tough.
And, she has to remind herself of her value and who she is in reality, not who who Satan's telling her she is, right? And
her weak point.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
That's it. And that's what's happening is he's really exploiting her weak point. And I think that we have to realize that our value is in Christ.
Amen.
And when we get to that point, when we come to that realization, everything changes.
Sure.
Now, in the moment, we're always going to revert back to...
We always do. Well, and again, I think about the Israelites going into the promised land, but there for a while, they wanted to go back to Egypt to be slaves. I mean, because they got meat and food, not manna. So I'm constantly thinking, so the word of God is always on my tongue. I mean, I at least try to, maybe not perfect, but the thought of it, I see in pictures and everything, so I think of these pictures. But when it comes down to it, when those thoughts start flooding, because I'm very hard on myself. That's one of my worst things that I'm going to tell me I'm bad before you can ever tell me I'm bad, know? Yeah. And but I have to remember that God made me and that I'm made in his image. And so these are the quick second thoughts that I have real fast when I start to doubt myself and all of those, because that's my weak spot. Yeah. That the doubt and you're not good enough, Angie. Yeah. Well, I've been called to be here, so I'm good enough for him, so I'm going to go do it.
Amen.
It might not be the way you want it, but I'm doing it.
Amen. And it all goes back to what we were talking about a little while ago, is you have to continually do that. And the more often you do it, the easier it becomes to do it.
And those in my circle know. I mean, Patrick knows my insecurities and knows how much I'm going to beat myself up. And God bless him. He's that big tough guy is really a sweet man, and that many people don't see. But we have to, because that channel of doubt and the insecurities and everything, I have 50 years of that pathway. Yeah. And it's a matter of rerouting to get through that I don't get caught up in it anymore. Yeah. But again, it starts with a choice, and we have to choose to do that. Yeah.
And it's hard, but it's worth it.
It's hard, but it's worth it. Yeah. I'm a much happier person these days.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about, suffering with a little bit of anger issues, and, I'm short-tempered, and most people won't see that because I choose not to do that anymore. It's much nicer to just kind of be here.
Isn't it awesome?
Y'all think I'm just silly. There's a lot going on in this brain.
Last question. Can you put down the negativity and trust God?
Doing our best.
Yeah. And I look at it like it's a displacement, right? Mm-hmm. It's you have to... Your brain is going to think of something. So if I say right now, don't think about an elephant.
Well, boom.
What goes in your head?
An elephant just came to mind.
Right? You're thinking of an elephant. You can't not think of something.
Right.
So what we have to do is we have to take the positive images in order to get the negative images out. We have to replace them with positive images.
Yes.
We can't just say, I'm not going to think about that.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Mm-hmm.
So,
because when you say, I'm not going to think about that, boom, you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
What you have to do is then replace it with, I'm going to think of all things good and joyful. And
yeah. And when you think of God's love, it's really hard to be negative.
Yeah.
When when you're really thinking about the depths of his love and that kind of thing. And so
that's so beautiful.
I think that's important. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
But then I start thinking I'm not worthy. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We keep going back, don't we? Yeah. Philippians 4:8 says this: "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." That's what we're talking about.
That's right.
Is replacing all those negative thoughts with those things.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible gives us, look at all the ideas there.
Yes.
Whatever is true, all these, it's a list of, go through that list and pick something out. Purposeful thinking in positive ways will displace the negative thoughts in our head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think of, just taking up God's word, the sword of the Spirit every single day. And then also in Joshua, where he says to keep my word on your tongue. I mean, he tells us to have that in our thoughts at all time. And I was just running this past weekend with somebody, and she was having a hard time and everything, but I heard her start speaking beautiful words over herself.
Yeah.
And I was like, you go, girl. Yes. And I just prayed with her, and everything was awesome. It's like she's got that one down pat. I thought I was helping her, but yet she taught me a lesson.
That's awesome when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That happens to, I've got one girl on our team. She's just so positive. And sometimes, we're talking about something and, there's a negative, I'm thinking about it from a negative standpoint, and she'll do just like that. She'll come at it from a whole different angle, and it's so refreshing.
Yeah, she's already thinking like what we're talking about. That she has replaced the "I can't do this" with "You are capable of doing this. We can get up this hill" or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
Yep.
At Run for God, we care about more than just your exercise. We care about your relationship with God, and we believe that the music you listen to while you run can help you build your relationship with God. That's why we partner with J Radio. J Radio offers a variety of positive and Christian playlists to listen to while you run. You can find a playlist that I put together on the Run for God station at J Radio.
All right, so we're back, and we're getting into summertime. It's getting warm out there.
It's warm.
I think today it's supposed to be 92. So it's pretty warm. It's not bad water bad.
It's not, but I like hot weather.
Do you?
I do. The humidity gets me more than like the heat, itself. But
definitely.
I choose to go. Again, it's a choice. People ask us all the time, Patrick, how do you work in the heat? He works in the heat. You develop the ability to. Yeah. Same thing. How do you run in the heat? You train in the heat.
Yeah.
You just like cold. I don't love cold weather, but I have to go out and do it.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about running in the heat on Thursday nights. If you've never checked that out, you can find that on the Facebook page and with the hashtag Thursday night, or topic Thursday nights. But it's important to understand that when you run in the heat, your body has to work harder.
Yeah.
It's literally, your body literally has to work harder. And so what a lot of people have a hard time with is, let's say I run and my normal pace is 10 minutes per mile. And they get to summertime and it's hard to run 10 minutes per mile. Well, what they don't realize is running 10:30 per mile is the same thing as running 10 minutes per mile back in the wintertime.
Right.
Because their body has to work harder. And so people get frustrated with that because they feel like, I'm slowing down. I'm not getting as much out of it. Yes, you are.
Is there a particular equation for that? Is it 30 seconds, add 30 seconds, or is there just kind of go with your body?
Well, there's an app out there if you want to get specific about it. It's Jack Daniels. VDOT. App. You can use that and it kind of tells you, but everybody's different.
Sure.
It is different for different people. Some people are affected more by heat than others. I've actually become more affected by heat as I get older, strangely, than I used to be. And so, it all depends. And so the heat used to not bother me at all. I mean, I could almost run the same speed in the heat as I could in the cool, but.
Do you find yourself inside more often now? I mean, minus your running. I found when I worked in an office for 4 years, all my whole life I've worked in one office 4 years, but I found that it was hard for me to go outside during those 4 years because I had been in the air condition so much. So we spend so much time outside. The outside doesn't really affect me as much as I don't like cold. Even cold weather doesn't affect me as much as many. I just don't like it. But so I don't know. The body being, adapting to the cold or the air condition and then being outside, you don't think that's anything to do with it?
No, because in my case, I'm actually spending more time outside. Because,
interesting.
Prior to coaching, I did spend a lot of time
inside.
indoors.
You're right.
And now I'm outdoors hours every day.
Okay,
So, yeah. But anyway, interesting though. So it makes it tougher mentally to run in the summer as well. So you got to be, you have to be cognizant of that, right? Because if you get frustrated with it, then that just makes the mental problem snowball.
Well, I feel that this is one of those kind of areas where you have to find the balance, because going from the topic that we were just talking about of, not wanting to give up and pushing through hard things versus heat and safety, is finding that middle spot of, all right, but I am suffering because I'm not slowing down. Let me slow down to see if I can't, make the changes or what have you. But you have to be mindful of that.
You do, and be satisfied with it when you have to run a little bit slower. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up because you're not running at a particular pace. Yeah.
Yesterday, actually, I was out for a run. I specifically went out. It was 86 degrees. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I did that on purpose because, again, I'm trying to adapt to the heat. Yeah. And it was going to be 4 miles, and I put my course was going to be partially shaded, but a lot of it was in the blazing sun. Well, at 3 miles, I went ahead and canned it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn it off now because I was running too fast and I couldn't slow, it was one of those things that, so I shut it down, but then I did intervals on the way back. And I was like, you know what? I'm perfectly satisfied with this run today because my point was to get out in the heat.
Yeah.
So,
well, there you go.
I don't know that Coach Dean would have liked that, but
it's all good. So have you ever wanted to go into space? Have you ever thought about that?
Not really.
No? Don't have any interest in that?
Not in outer space, no. But, I like this topic, though.
I think it would be interesting.
Do you?
I don't know, though. What if I thought about it? Because I would think that would be really cool. But, of course, going in outer space could be dangerous. Right?
Yeah.
So,
what if it can't come back?
Yeah. What if you had a 90% chance of coming back? Would you go? Would you take somebody up on the offer to go into space? And I think I would.
Would you?
I think I would. Yeah. Even if I had a 10%.
Because
chance.
Again, you like that living life right on that edge.
Yeah, I like things different. I like new and different. Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll grow into that.
It's time for Dean's Thoughts. That's the time when we share something that I've written about the intersection between running and faith. And that is, let's talk about how gravity affects us when we are in space. This is called the gravity of the situation. When an astronaut travels through space or spends time at the International Space Station, they have to perform vigorous exercise for 2 hours a day. Is it because all astronauts are fitness freaks? No. It is because the human body can lose up to 20% muscle and bone density in less than 2 weeks when it's exposed to an atmosphere that lacks gravity. The exercise is important to keep them from losing strength and even breaking bones more easily on Earth when they return. It's a lot like people who suffer from osteoporosis. Our bodies are designed for gravity. Without it, they begin to break down. Just the simple act of fighting against gravity every day helps to keep our bones and muscles stronger. We need the gravity. Gravity is good. It makes sense when you think about it, and we should look at running the same way. The resistance that gravity provides to our muscles and bones helps to keep them at a minimum strength needed for life in general. But we don't want to live a minimal life. We want to live the abundant life described in the Bible, don't we? Isn't that part of the reason we run or walk? Let me describe 2 different buildings. Let's make them churches. The first building is a nice building, but you notice that the furniture is old and well worn. The floors are uncluttered, but the pattern in the carpet is obviously old, and it looks like it could be replaced. The light fixtures all work, but then our 1980 style fluorescent lights. Finally, you look into the upper corners and you see that the dust and cobwebs have collected in them just a little. The place is fairly clean and neat, but relatively unimpressive. Now let's walk into a different building. The second building has the latest luxury vinyl tile that looks just like real wood floors. The walls are painted nicely and the furniture looks like it was purchased last week. Everything is shiny and super clean. The lighting is creative with some direct and non-direct lighting. Everything looks thought out. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad about their church if it looks like the first building, but which church would you like to attend, assuming all the people are the same? We all want to use a building that's clean, efficient, and easy to use and makes us feel good about where we are, right? I know it's not about the building, and I totally agree, but it does make us feel a little better if we're being honest. Mm-hmm. Many of our churches don't have the finances to update everything, and that's okay, especially if the focus on worship makes it special. After all, that's why we're there. But let's look at our bodies like those two church buildings. Are you the first church or the second one? You have the opportunity to update your building or your body. Running or walking is a great way to do it, and it doesn't cost a thing. But you have to be willing to go against gravity to do that. The truth is that you need the resistance of running, walking, or some other exercise to live your best life. If you have trouble getting out the door, maybe this is a good reason to get moving. And speaking of churches, many professing Christians are only getting a dose of Jesus on Sundays. It is easy to fall into the habit of going to church on Sunday, lay our Bible down for the week, and pick it up next Sunday. But that's a lot like going into space 6 days a week. It's simply not enough to keep our spiritual body in shape to do the things God has planned for our lives. We need to expose ourselves to the daily gravity that is reading our Bibles and praying to our Father. It is the only way to build up the spiritual strength we need for the rigors of daily living. Simple gravity keeps us in shape by providing resistance for our bones and muscles. Running and walking keeps us in even better shape by providing a little more resistance to the body. And spending time with God every day keeps us spiritually fit. We don't have any choice about the gravity, but we have to be intentional, just like the guys at the space station, if we're going to be all of what God wants us to be.
That's great. Great story.
Resistance. It's a bad word and a good word at the same time, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
I mean, you think about that, just that word resistance. You can say just that word, and you can get a positive picture and a negative picture. It's an interesting word.
I hadn't ever really thought of that as this picture of it being good and bad.
Yeah.
But it's so right, and I like the analogy of the body, the church,
Yeah. Count it all joy.
Amen.
Sometimes resistance feels good, right?
Yes.
I mean, sometimes it really does. It feels good.
Yeah.
And sometimes running feels great, and nothing beats running hard. I had one of those runs this past weekend where I just felt good, and I ran way faster than I normally run, and it just felt really good to push myself, and that resistance felt really good. But the only way that I could get to that run that felt great, where the resistance felt really good, was by working my way through a lot of days where it was a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to go through those hard days.
Yep. It's important to understand that.
Well, in muscle memory too, because those muscles had those hard workouts during that hard run that you had over the weekend. It's like, oh, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it clicked that day.
Yep. And we have to realize that when we're in the moment, the bad moment of struggling through the resistance, we need to realize the resistance is worth it.
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about. It's worth it.
I always think of where the Apostle Paul talks about, in our weakness, we are strong.
Yeah.
That's something that I hold strong to, or hold on to, is the fact that where I'm weak, if I just continue to work harder at it, I will grow stronger through Christ. Yeah. I mean, if it's meant to be, which I feel like I've been called to go do this, then I know I'm going to grow.
Yeah.
And it's during that hard time we grow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I was just talking with somebody the other day about if we lack patience, how do we get more patients? We put ourselves in positions where we need to have more patience. Well, that's running is kind of like that. You can't get the benefits of running without doing the actual running.
Sure.
Right? And so we have to figure out how we can embrace that resistance.
Right.
It's a lot like it's really getting out of our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And we have to figure out how to embrace it. The more we can embrace it, the better off we're going to be. And then, of course, the alternative is to not face that resistance. And then you get what we get at the space station. When you're at the space station and you go 2 weeks and you've lost 20% of your muscle mass because...
I didn't know that. That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's a really crazy thought. And our muscles atrophy, and it goes that way whether it's an activity that we do like running or weightlifting or whatever we do.
Sure.
And it's that way in our spiritual lives as well. If we don't use it, we lose it.
Right. That's such one of those sayings that it's so true.
Yep. So we gotta spend time doing these things in order to, again, as I said, living the abundant life is all about living our best life, and our best life doesn't take place sitting on the couch.
No, it does not. Amen.
Do you struggle with motivation to exercise? Are you looking for something that will challenge you and inspire and motivate you? The Run for God Run Club is just what you need to get off the couch and on your way to a fitter, healthier you. Stop trying to get into better shape and do it. With the help and inspiration of thousands of others who are going through the same challenges you face. Whether you're participating in the Couch to Marathon Challenge or just looking for a daily pick-me-up to get active, join the Run for God Run Club today. You can join for as little as 27 cents a day. So what are you waiting for? Get started today at www.runforgod.com. All right, we're back, and by the time this podcast goes live, I will have had 2 athletes who actually competed in the national championships. Hopefully, we have 2 All-Americans at this point.
So cool.
Don't know, but they have to finish top 8 to be considered All-American in track.
Hay is in the barn.
And they're looking good.
Good.
I like their chances.
Good.
It is going to be hard. They're going to have to do well to do it, but.
How exciting.
But it's exciting.
Yeah.
So Catherine Bradenberg she's a 2-time All-American in cross country already. She's never been an All-American in track. She's competing in the 1,500 meters.
Okay.
Which is just short of a mile.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about her prospects. She's had a breakthrough in the way that she's raced lately, and I'm looking forward to seeing her.
What should be her time?
She ran 4:41. And we're looking at her running. I believe she can run 4:35, maybe a little faster.
Awesome.
And so we'll see.
Very
cool. She has
cool.
to go through rounds, so she has to qualify for the finals.
Okay.
12 girls out of there. I think there's over 30. Out of those 30, 12 will qualify for the finals.
Okay.
And so we're looking forward to that.
Very good.
And then Riley Jo Ford, who has been on this podcast a while back, she's running the half marathon this year. It was supposed to be a marathon.
I was saying, did she do the marathon before?
She did the marathon last year.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
This year she qualified for the marathon again, but the NAIA, which is our governing body, decided that we were not going to have a full marathon because it was too dangerous. Because it was too hot. And it is in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Yeah.
It is and they do it early in the morning. They start basically as the sun comes up. They start that early to make sure that it's as cool as it can be. Of course, the humidity level is always high down there. But I just have a problem with the culture of safetyism that we have these days. And I call it safetyism. That's what I call it. I don't know that
I wouldn't know what to
calls it. But this whole idea that we have to protect everybody and everything to the nth degree drives me bonkers.
Yes.
Because the truth is you wouldn't have gotten in your car and driven here if you were doing the absolute most safe thing all the time.
Right.
We have to live life.
And just I'm at a loss for this because of the fact she has trained for the marathon and she's prepared for it. Whatever the temperature is, exactly what I was saying earlier. I'm sure she's gone out in the middle of the day and has run countless times to prepare for the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, on this topic with the over, and it's such a slippery little topic, with safety. And we're not suggesting by any means, I'm not suggesting that people should go and be reckless and whatnot. But come on.
I agree. It's important to note that. We're not saying go out there and be reckless, for sure. But here's some facts. This is an absolute fact. People don't die in marathons from heat.
Right.
They just don't.
Right.
Has it happened? Yes,
sure.
It has happened. But it's not a common occurrence. And when people do, and when it has happened, typically it's people who are not trained very well.
They're not prepared.
Really ready. As you mentioned. Now, do people have to drop out because of the heat, because they get overwhelmed with it or what? Sure. That happens. But that's different than being in real danger.
Yeah.
It's something that you can recover from. And that's where I have the problem. If it were a true, look, there's a 1% chance you're going to die. Okay, I understand. Let's not do that thing.
You're not taking them to Death Valley.
Right, exactly. And the problem that maybe one of the biggest problems with this particular issue is that they called off the marathon over a month before they were even going to have it. So they really had no idea what the weather was going to be like when they called it off. And so that was just they just knew it would be warm, and it was going to be warm. And so anyway. It's sad for Riley because Riley's better. The longer she goes, the better she is. Yeah. And so it's better for her if it's a marathon. But I think she's going to do well to half marathon too.
I'm sure she's going to do well.
Yep, she will.
She's a tough girl.
It's impossible to eliminate all risk. You
can't. I mean, like you said, that we wouldn't be doing anything. We'd be well, I was going to say we'd all be sitting on our couch, but there's a risk at that too. I mean, we couldn't do anything.
Now, it's important to understand. I do know people and have seen people who are like, walk out into traffic because God's got me.
Yeah.
No. God gave us a brain, and we should be smart. So we do have to be careful, and I think being careful is important, but we got to be careful not to believe that we can eliminate every risk.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. All right, we have a trivia question for this week, and the trivia question is this: who holds the record for the wheelchair marathon, and what was his time? So I would venture to say very few people know the answer to this question.
I would probably imagine as well. But one thing, and I'm giggling at myself because we watched, when we used to run the Peachtree Road Race, they always start with the wheelchair, know, and we would watch them every single year before we'd head out to go run the Peachtree, because they're so much earlier, and then the really, really fast people got to go, and then our wave got to go. So, I'm really wishing I would have paid closer attention to some names. But I'm just so amazed at how incredibly fast they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole, it's a different sport.
Yeah.
It's really different.
Yeah.
It's not this, a wheelchair marathon is not the same as running a marathon at all. There's nothing about it that's even similar. It's just,
I never even thought about that, but it
is an endurance event, but it's not just like doing a marathon with your arms. It's completely different because of the time that's involved in it. It's just completely different.
Yeah.
That it doesn't take them 3 hours, 4 hours to do it.
Right.
So now some people it does. For some people it is a lot like running a marathon, but for these world-class folks, not
I just can't even imagine. Yeah. They have a different kind of grit. You know what I mean? Their drive and determination. These athletes are just amazing to me. Once again, I'm just so inspired by people who do really hard things.
Yep. Well, we'll talk more about the answer to that question next week. And you can send, if you know the answer, you've probably Googled it. If you know it off the top of your head, congratulations. That's awesome. I didn't. But you send the answer to dean@runforgod.com. If you're the first person to send the right answer to dean@runforgod.com, you'll win a Run Club tumbler. And so you'll want to get on board for that.
Right.
Right.
They can't send it to customer service.
That's right.
Nope. Has to go to Dean
Right. No Facebook Messenger.
As many messages as I like to get, this one I won't be able to help you with. You've got to contact Dean.
That's right. That's right. No, that's right. No, Angie. Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Every week I share a reason why running is so awesome. And so this week, my thing is the dry shirt moment.
That's
I call
funny.
it. I don't mind running in the heat, and I love those days where I run in the heat. But I run now. There's a lot of days if I'm running by myself, just frankly, and it's 80 degrees or higher, I run without a shirt on. Some people never run without a shirt on, but if I'm running with my girls' cross country team,
Sure.
I'm not running with a shirt
Sure.
off for obvious reasons. So you get through and you've got this heavy, dripping wet shirt at the end of your run. Taking that shirt off and replacing it with a dry shirt is just one of the most glorious feelings.
I'm going to never wear a sweaty shirt again without thinking that I'm going to change my shirt right now.
It's just one of the things about running we don't even think about.
Because I don't really mind. Well, I try to get out of and I'm a tank top wearer. I wear it as soon as as soon as that temperature or the sun comes up that I can put on a tank top, I'm out of that t-shirt.
Yeah.
Something about, anyway. But I just go places sweaty. I'm like, I've got errands to do. I just go and sweat. I don't care.
Well, now,
but I do carry change of shirts now in the truck. A lot of times.
Yeah. Now it depends. It depends on how. I mean, I'm literally. I get through with some runs and I can literally take my shirt and wring it out, and it's
Patrick's that way.
It's just
even in the wintertime, we try to take pictures of the steam coming off his head.
Yeah.
And he's sweating, and it's like, it's 32 degrees, but he's sweating.
So
I'm in 14 layers and.
All right, our motivational thought of the week is this: mental will is a muscle that needs exercise, just like the muscles of the body.
It does.
That came from Lynn Jennings. Lynn Jennings was a runner back in the 80s, I believe it was, 80s or 90s. And she was a world-class runner. And so this comes from a running perspective. Again, mental will is a muscle that needs exercise just like the muscles of the body. I like that thought.
I do too.
Yep.
I do too.
The 6 inches between your ears, as we call it. Yeah.
Mine is very muddy and cloudy in there, and I'm doing my best to kind of like make it much more foggy.
Yeah.
Much less foggy, I guess I should say.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Angie, thanks for being here.
I am
Do you
so
have
grateful.
any last words, parting words of wisdom that you want to share with the folks out there?
Wisdom's not really my, cup of tea. Some of the things I just shouldn't share either,
You're more on the crazy side than the wisdom side.
I really am. Yeah. I mean, because
that-
I am one of those, I might follow you because you're so crazy that I might do that.
Yeah.
But no. Keep at it. Keep trying. Keep pushing hard. I don't love the word try, so sorry I just said that, but don't give up. We're coming to the end of this 10K challenge. A lot of I have a more or less virtual group that has been doing, and I had some that were just here for the 5K, some that are moving into the 10K, and I'm seeing daily, even with some of the people that live out of town that I talk to, just the growth and how and I'm just so amazed at it. It's like, that's my wisdom, is it's taken me 3 years to come into training for a half marathon this year.
Yeah.
So far, I'm injury free.
All right.
Awesome. So don't give up. Don't give up. Just keep at it, and adjust, modify, contact Dean. I think that's important, is that we think that I thought I had to follow the plan 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that, my body's different, just like everything else, and that we can modify things. So
You got to adjust accordingly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for all that you guys do. I say it a lot, and and I drop lines here and there when I send an email or whatever, but I think I can speak for a lot of us that we are very grateful for all you guys.
Well, we're very grateful for your cheerleading. It has a huge impact.
It is my gift.
And we're so thankful for it.
Thanks.
For sure. So, all right. Until next week, may God bless every step of every run or walk. Go out there and shine your light.
Good job, Dean.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.